Hi, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast here tonight on this Tuesday evening. Yeah, I told you we'd be doing Wednesday evenings and Sunday evenings, but we're going to do Tuesday instead this week. And the reason why is because we have that severe weather threat with the storm system that's coming in tomorrow. We've been combing through the models all day today. I'm actually working, and the reason why I didn't have a post this morning was because I'm working on a special project, which I think you'll like. It has something to do with mornings and forecasts that are consistent. But we were in full blown graphics build mode for this thing this morning, and that was taking up quite a bit of time. So there's that. So we've got some time this evening to go over this thread. So let's talk about it, shall we? Sponsors up above, please support them if you get a chance. They're all local moms and dads that work right here in Northwest Indiana, and they all do a fantastic job at their craft, FBIbuildings.com. If you need a pole barn constructed, whether it be commercial or residential, they've done over 20,000 of them in the Midwest. FBIbuildings.com. Meals on Wheels of Northwest Indiana. What a great organization. If you or someone you know are in need of warm meals during the week, Monday through Friday, they're only $5.99 each. They deliver. And I'll tell you, there are no age requirements and no financial requirements either. So times are hard for a lot of folks, not just losing jobs, but also those that, can't afford groceries and stuff like that. So if you know someone in need, or if that's you, Meals on Wheels is a great place to go. It's MOWNWI.org for more information. PublicServiceAdjusting.com is the place to go if you have an insurance claim. If you have any storm damage from any storms last week, this week, any week, go to them first, all right? Instead of your insurance company, they will take all the pictures, document it, and they'll go to your insurance company for you, and they'll negotiate and get you the top dollar that your insurance company doesn't want to give for the damage, and you don't have to do any of it. That's the beauty of it. PublicServiceAdjusting.com. TigerPlumbing.net, the place to go for a plumber here in Northwest Indiana. They come out for free still, which is so rare this day and age, and you can schedule everything on mobile. If you need a new faucet, or maybe you want to get the outdoor spigots ready for gardening season, TigerPlumbing.net, the place to go. Minogue.life, that is our life insurance, Medicare, Medicaid guru. Michael is. He's a wonderful guy. He would love to sit down with you. If you just sign up for a plan, a Medicare plan or Medicaid plan via phone, and you don't know what benefits you have, he would love to sit down and actually tell you what benefits you have. Maybe you need more, maybe you need less. Maybe you've got life insurance and you're paying too much into it as you get older. He'll sort that all out for you for free. It's a no-cost consultation in his office. He's wonderful. He has great coffee, I hear. Minogue.life, the place to go. Kate Cusack for Ruoff Mortgage. She wants to be your local lender for all your mortgage needs. If you're looking for a new house, dream house, or first house, she'll help you get it, but you got to get prepped, and she will help you get prepped by getting pre-approved, get all your ducks in a line, so when that house hits the market, which will likely be soon, you'll be ready to go. Kate Cusack, Home Loan Girl on Facebook. Finally, last but not least, Grieger's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Valparaiso. They've been serving Northwest Indiana for decades. Give them some support there if you need a new car. Again, over at Grieger's, they have brand new Jeeps on the lot ready to go. Grieger's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram right there on US 30. All right, let's say hi to our early birds, then we'll get to the content here as we let some more people join. Mary's with us. Hello, Mary. You are always first. You're so fast. I appreciate that. Debbie's with us. Good evening to you. Jeff, good evening. Debbie is saying, this other Debbie is saying, it's been a beautiful day. And my goodness, has it been a beautiful day? Well into the 70s today. I hope you guys got out and enjoyed it. Maybe you're doing it right now. You're watching us on mobile on the back deck. We are okay tonight. DZ on our YouTube channel. Thank you, DZ. Good evening to you. Carol says, please don't tell me we have to take cover in the basement again. Hopefully not, Carol. We'll go through it, though. We do have some good storms, at least the potential, coming our way tomorrow. Gail, Terry, hello to you. Hi, Rebecca. Thanks for joining us on our YouTube. JK's with us. Justin, Debbie. Tom says, seriously, snow? There is snow coming, Tom. We're not going to talk a lot about that today. Tom, you're welcome. Other Tom, we're keeping track of it. A lot of good Toms on here tonight. All right, and the list just keeps going. Appreciate that. And Paul, our special guest here tonight. Paul does wonderful work for Region News. Give him a good follow as well. He is keeping up to date on the latest happenings here in Northwest Indiana and does a heck of a job doing it. Harry's with us as well. Harry, thanks for joining us. Good to have you on board tonight. Quentin, what's up, buddy? Thanks for joining us. Hi, Nancy. All right, enough highs. I know we're all family, but some people want content, and let's get to it. Here's what we've got in terms of the setup. All right, deep area of low pressure. This is very similar to last week in terms of kind of what the low looks like. There's a deep trough digging out. We don't have much activity on the leading edge of this, and it's all going to kind of pop and explode. Remember last week, and it's all going to explode on a dry line, mind you, but last week what we dealt with was the explosion of thunderstorms was in Kansas and Nebraska and Missouri and came our way. Tomorrow's a little bit different for several reasons. The first one is that this development of the bigger storms really doesn't take place till it gets to Illinois and Indiana, like right over us. The timing is better with these storms tomorrow. Remember last week what we were dealing with, and again, I hate to compare 2 weeks because no two storm systems are the same, but this one is very similar to that. Last week, the storms popped up evening rush hour, a little bit before that in areas of Missouri. They didn't get here till what, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So the timing wasn't very conducive for severe weather here locally. This time they're going to pop in the afternoon for us. So I'm looking at, in terms of timing, that's a popular question we get. It's going to be right around that evening rush hour, either an hour before or an hour after. That's what we're looking at for development and through the area that those storms will be moving through. Okay, sometime around evening rush hour. We'll fine tune that based on where they develop. Models still don't agree on the hour, but they agree sometime around that time. Okay, so that's when we need to put our radar antennas up and say, oh, there might be some storms. Some of those might be strong. Okay, so that's more conducive to severe weather. So we've got a lot kind of leaning this direction. A couple things leaning this direction, though, and I'll take you through those here in the forecast. So Storm Prediction Center has us under slight risk. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Storm Prediction Center lines, but they got to draw them somewhere. And so, again, some people would say, oh, well, the line goes through, we're not going to get it in South Bend or over towards Fort Wayne. Doesn't matter, right? Notice where the bullseye is: Illinois, Indiana, right through the region. In terms of tornado risk, it's not off the charts, but it is there. So we have to discuss that. Wind damage is going to be your primary threat again. And then sneaking into this system is going to be a hail threat, mainly when these storms first get going, all right, with the cold air aloft. But we still have a pretty decent hail threat from this. And so, again, we are all about what do you need to do to prepare. I mean, we can soak in the information, but where's the action part of it? Tomorrow, if you get a chance, when you get home, park the car in the garage versus outside, or the carport, whatever you've got. You just want to just keep it out of the outside, just in case we do have some hail with this, because there is a risk with this one. There was not with the last one. I want to show you temperatures tomorrow first, all right? There's a sneaky boundary that's hanging out, and I'm not seeing any discussion about this, so I do want to discuss this. We're going to stay in the warm air tonight. Notice areas of Wisconsin. I mean, you go up 50, 100 miles to the north, and we're talking winter-like conditions. We will get there, trust me. But in terms of the system, area of low pressure is going to come right over us. We've mentioned this before, and a lot of you I know appreciate when I do mention this. You're going to feel this system when it moves in, all right? If you're a migraine sufferer, if you're someone that has joint pain and you can feel low pressures, you're not crazy. I had someone email me at work. It wasn't through Region Weather, through my TV job. And they said, thank you for calling it out. My family has never believed me that I have joint pain. When a low comes in, they thought it was something else, like what they were eating or just lifestyle. And a lot of it has to do with low pressures, because a low pressure, and I'm just going to explain this real quick, we'll get to the severe part, but a low pressure is literally that. It's lower pressure. It's not as much pressure pushing down on you and your body, all right? The molecules, air molecules, don't weigh as much, and so they rise, all right? That's why you get so much rising action and storms and clouds with low pressures. But that also does a number on your joints and your blood vessels. There's not as much pressure in putting as much weight on your body, and so everything kind of relaxes a little bit. So your nerves and your blood vessels are allowed to expand, and sometimes they expand in your head, right? And they become tight, and that becomes your migraine, joint pain, same thing, and your knees, all that stuff. So that's why arthritis flares up, all that stuff. I say all that to explain it. I want you to know you're not crazy. That's what's happening inside your body. And oftentimes it has to do with a low that is strong, which we have, and a low that's passing over Northwest Indiana or close to us. Last week we had one that passed close to us, but it was strong. This week we have a little bit lesser of a strength to the low pressure, but it's still a pretty strong one for this time of year. But the problem is it's going to pass right over us, all right? It'll be weakening as it moves through, but still, you are going to feel this system if you're one of those folks. The other boundary that we have, we're looking at temperatures tomorrow. Look as this thing goes through. We hold this warm front to the north, and just from past experience, warm fronts can cause some really squirrely weather. And I know that's not a scientific term, but I use it all the time when I'm doing tornado coverage. Some of these storms could get a little funky tomorrow along that warm front. And the reason why is you have a switch in the winds, not just at the low levels, but upper levels, typically along a warm front. And storms that tend to develop, as soon as they hit the warm front, they can do some funky things. And I've seen a lot of tornado development along warm fronts or sneaky boundaries like that. That warm front boundary needs to be watched tomorrow. It will be placed right across the Chicago metro area and Northwest Indiana. And I would have a hunch that the cold lake air would help to keep that from going out over the lake until that low gets really close. Then it should push. So we're going to have to keep an eye on storms tomorrow in our northern counties. This is just in my mind. And then eventually it'll push out over the lake, so we wouldn't have to worry about the warm front being a threat tomorrow. But it will be there. And then we all turn colder on the backside of this. I mean, look at this. This is hours after the storms pass. We're back into the 30s. And yes, for the first day of spring, we are going to have some snow, mainly in the morning. And then we'll have clearing skies, but could wake up to some slush outside. Not a huge deal, but again, that's the change. All right, let's talk storms, okay? So we've got that slight risk out. Again, who cares what risk we have? Is there really a risk? Let's talk about it. So here's the low pressure coming in. This is all heavy snow on the back side. I could change the colors on there, but I like the reflectivity on the leading edge. And what we're going to see is this area of dry air coming in. We'll call it the dry line because it literally is dew point demarcation, where it goes from a little bit humid to not humid at all and really bone dry. And that is oftentimes a focus for thunderstorm development, especially out in the plain states. But it can be here as well, especially as the dry slot of the system's coming in. This low is kind of grabbing that dry air, typically just going to like Kansas or Oklahoma and develop storms. But this low is developing over Iowa, and it's pulling that dry line in. So it becomes a factor in our own local weather. So here we go. This is tomorrow morning. We may get a pop or two right here with this initial band, all right? This is essentially just the leading edge of that tremendous lift coming in. And again, that could occur anytime in the morning through midday. We may pop some showers. You'll see a boundary kind of moving through. That's not your severe threat, all right? We'll have to keep an eye on those, especially anything that forms along that warm front, which will be in the vicinity. I don't want to let our guard down on that. But the big show arrives for that evening rush hour, which is right in here. Now, this is the HRRR that I'm showing you. I'm going to show you a couple other models. The HRRR develops the storms closer to us, all right? And this is the big question in my mind tomorrow. A lot of you want to know, are we going to get severe weather or not? It's still up in the air, and figuratively, but it's literally up in the air in terms of the modeling, because it all matters where these storms develop, all right? If they develop like the HRRR says, and this is the worst looking model in terms of severe weather for us, if they develop in Illinois, like central Illinois, like the HRRR has been showing today, all right, then we would have the best chance of severe weather in some of these supercells. They're not going to be huge, robust supercells that produce long-lived, on-the-ground for mile tornadoes like we saw last week in the plains and the deep south, but they are going to be capable of some quick spin-ups and large hail with these, okay? If they develop, and where they initiate, it matters. If they develop in areas of central Illinois, they would be fresh storms, and they would roll through here, and they'd have some punch to them, okay? Evening rush hour is what we're looking at, and a little bit beyond perhaps. All right, then they move through, and that's it. We're going to get one hit tomorrow outside of that little warm front we need to watch. But again, if they develop in Illinois, heads up, they're going to be fresh and moving in for that evening rush hour. However, most of the other modeling, we'll show you this one. It's not quite as high res. This is the WRAP. Notice how this develops them, but really doesn't have the intensity. It brings a lot of it up into just a solid rain. I don't really like looking at the WRAP. It's not as high res. The NAM-NEST here says that they develop back towards Missouri, all right, and Illinois. That means we inherit storms that are kind of decaying as they move in, all right? So that's the big question. We're either going to get, and it all depends on initiation tomorrow. And trust me, I will send you a post when they initiate to let us know what we're dealing with. And maybe the models will resolve themselves tonight. Tomorrow we'll have a better idea. But that being said, it all depends on where they initiate. And if they initiate further off towards the west, they've got a ways to go, and they're going to be running into some more stable air, and we're not looking at a big storm threat. We would have thunderstorms, but not a big deal. But if they develop in central Illinois, which the HRRR is saying, which the HRRR has been pretty consistent with, then we would have the chance at some bigger storms here in the region, all right? Any storms that we get are going to be capable of damaging winds first and some hail, and then we can't rule out a low-end tornado threat, but the tornado threat's there, especially if we've got individual supercells that are rolling into the region per the HRRR, we would have a tornado threat. Couple things that are going against us. This is not a slam dunk, all right? Last week's was a better chance than this, and the reason why I say that, our atmosphere was structured differently last week. Doesn't mean we're not going to get it. There are different things in play today, like timing, like I mentioned. You've got a dry line, which is punching in terms of where they develop. There are some things going for this, but this is the one thing that's going against us. This is the dew point map, all right? Dew point tells you how much moisture you have in the air, and a couple things you need for severe weather. You need moisture, all right? And that comes from the dew points and moisture aloft, precipitable water values, all that stuff. You also need shear, okay? Shear is turning of wind with height, or you can get speed shear, where you have stronger winds up above and lighter wind down at the surface. Both shears, what they do is it helps to vent thunderstorms. Not only do they help with the spin, but they help to vent it. In the middle of summertime, you typically don't have a lot of shear. The thunderstorm builds up into the sky, and then the rain comes down, and it just washes the whole storm out, and you'll get other development on the outside of that. But either way, thunderstorms in the summertime with no shear or no venting tend to rain themselves out. That's why you see storms kind of like popcorn that pulse on radar. When you have shear, that storm can go up in the sky, the wind can blow the top of it out, that's that anvil that you see, and that continues to provide it with fresh moisture from down below and fresh heating and all that stuff to keep it going. So storms can be sustained when you have shear. So two numbers, moisture and shear. We don't have moisture, at least it's not very high, but we have shear. All right, those are the two things, again, going against each other tomorrow. So it's really, grab some popcorn, we'll wait and see. But in terms of the forecast, here's your moisture. Notice how that boundary hangs out north, and then we get this little push of some humidity in here, but these dew points aren't as high as they were last week. Last week we released in the upper 50s with this, and we're only expected to be in the low to mid 50s for dew points tomorrow. That's typically not enough for a severe weather event, all right? And there's not as much flow out of the Gulf out ahead of this as there was last week either. So that's kind of going against it, all right? So in terms of the modeling, you can see the dew points are a little bit higher there on the HRRR. That's perhaps the reason why it's a little bit stronger on that, but we'll see. The other thing tomorrow we have to contend with are gusty winds, all right? So in terms of wind gusts, we're talking gusts anywhere from 20 to 40 during the day. Again, it will be gusty. Doesn't mean it's 40 all the time. You'll have, it blows and then it backs off a little bit. And then on the back side of the system, notice the winds start howling a little bit on Wednesday night, okay? We could have gusts over 45 at times as this sweeps through, and that's with the colder air, okay? Last thing I'll show you here, then I'll answer your questions, and I'll give you kind of a recap. Let's look at this part. I'm not going to mention what the blue equals, but look at all the isobars, lines of tight equal pressure. When you get a lot of them, that means it's windy, all right? When they're kind of stretched thin, it means it's not windy. Ton of wind on the back side of this, blizzard conditions likely in portions of the plains with heavy snow. And then for us, we get the storms, and then we will get some quick snow, could get a burst of it hours after we get severe weather. That's just kind of how it goes. And then again, I mentioned this on the broadcast Sunday, we could be waking up Thursday to a slushy snow around here just to welcome us into spring. That is so Northwest Indiana. So there's that. All right, so let's answer your questions. In terms of the recap here, what we're expecting, I do have a feeling like we're going to get severe storms tomorrow. I do. Hail and damaging winds are going to be primary threat. I'm going to have a keen eye on it for any spin-up tornadoes. We're not expecting huge, long-lived tornadoes tomorrow. It's not that kind of setup. It's a setup where we would have storms that are rolling, and we may have a tornado warning or two within these as they're coming in or as they're west of us. But I do feel like we may have a tornado or two out of this tomorrow, okay? Where is that? I can't tell you right now. It could be in central Illinois, could be in northwest Indiana, but I feel this atmosphere and the strong amount of shear with this is going to be enough to support that. Temperatures do not get off the charts tomorrow, all right? I'm not expecting us to jump well into the 70s like last time, okay? That's going to be a limiting factor. The moisture is going to be a limiting factor as well. So if we are going to crank severe weather tomorrow and get low-end tornadoes, it's going to be because the atmosphere is working hard because there's a lot of numbers going against that tomorrow, okay? Hopefully we will get out of tomorrow, though. That's just kind of my thinking. Timing, again, is evening rush hour and maybe a little bit after that. We'll keep a close eye on that development. Again, stay tuned to the forecast tomorrow, all right? Don't watch this and then just wait for the storms tomorrow. Please get updates tomorrow morning, tomorrow early afternoon. Just stay tuned to the forecast. And we will go live if needed tomorrow with that severe weather. It's not late at night, so there's that. But in terms of it, that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of timing. Those are my thoughts on it. I do feel like we're going to have some severe storms either just to our west or they roll through the region tomorrow. Damaging winds and hail, make sure that car is in a garage tomorrow when you get home from work, okay, before these storms hit. So there's that. So that's kind of my thinking in terms of the storms. I'll answer questions that you guys have. We'll do that, and then we'll get you out of the way tonight. I know you guys, have other things to do. It's nice. Go back outside, or maybe you are outside. But once this moves through, this is going to be a pretty quick hit tomorrow, okay, in terms of storms. We'll see it coming, or we could see it coming by an hour. We might see it coming by 3 or 4 hours. depending on where it develops. But we'll be able to see it, track it in, and track it out pretty quickly tomorrow. Okay? So things you need to do: plan for severe weather tomorrow. Not everyone's going to see severe weather tomorrow, so that's a good thing if you don't, all right? It's not all about where you live. There's a big square footage area, square mile area that we cover here, from Lake over to Stark County and then down to Newton and Jasper County. Not everyone will see severe weather. It's pretty much impossible for every backyard to get severe weather tomorrow. So hopefully you don't. But again, our plan is to tell you when severe weather is possible in our sky up above us. And it certainly is possible tomorrow with this strong low pressure coming in. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's see. I know, Linda, I'm sorry. Linda says you said the S word. I know I got in trouble for that on the news this morning. That's okay. So, Kathy, I was just mentioning about carports. The difference tomorrow versus last week's storm system is that we do have a hail threat tomorrow. It's not off the charts, but some of that hail could be on the larger side in some of those supercells that develop. So just, I would park the car if you can in a carport, or I would park it in the garage if I were you, all right? Just don't leave it outside tomorrow if you don't have to. If you do have to, hopefully you won't get hail, okay? But just want to mention that to you. Hi, Luann. Thanks for joining us. Jacob's excited about, yeah, I know, more tornado threat. Thank you, Maxwell, for the pictures. Appreciate that. Iron Jim, it'll be done as soon as that line moves out. So if the line moves in around the evening rush hour, I'd say it'd be done by 7. I do have one model holding me back that's keeping them a little bit later. It has it moving through like 6 or 7 to 7:30 window. So that means it would be out by 8, but I do think it'll be out sometime around that evening rush hour is when it should blow through here. So by late evening, we're safe, okay? And really, as soon as that line moves out, you'll know where that line is. As soon as that line's through, we're done. That temperature is going to tank tomorrow. Rich, Rich, I wouldn't advise doing this, but Rich, I can't tell you I haven't done that. Yeah, that is one of the best things where you're watching the storm from the garage and you're like, oh man, this is really quite a storm. And then you get that close lightning strike. You're absolutely right. Then you're like, I'm getting in the house. Rich, I've so been there. I think a lot of us have. That's funny. Yeah, Maxwell, that's another factor is the cloud cover. There's not going to be a ton of sunshine tomorrow. We may squeak it out at times. But with that morning boundary going through and with the moisture quickly on the heels of that, we aren't going to destabilize a lot. Temperatures are probably only going to get up in the 60s tomorrow. You know, if we had temps getting well up into the 70s, if we had dew points getting into the 60s or even where they were last time, I would say there's no doubt we're going to get storms with tornado potential tomorrow. But there are so many limiting factors that when there's a ton of variables with severe weather, you don't know exactly the formula for which ones are down and what the atmosphere is actually going to do. For which ones matter in terms of that setup, what the special ingredients are. It's different every single time. And then just because we're looking at models and we're looking at numbers doesn't mean we always achieve those numbers. Our dew point may be a little higher tomorrow. Temperatures may be a little bit lower. We're basically trying to predict the future, which we do all the time, right? That's our job. But we're trying to predict the future with chaotic variables versus a stable day or a day where just a cold front's moving through and we can time it and we know temperature drops, stuff like that. We're trying to predict volatile atmosphere up above us, and it's already chaotic as it is. So it really is a challenge. I wish I could tell you guys exactly when it's going to storm tomorrow and how bad it's going to be, but that's going to take a long time in terms of science. It really is. Kathy, you're welcome. Yeah, the migraine stuff. Yeah, a lot of people, you're dealing with it as well. Yeah, a lot of folks dealing with that for sure. Brad, we could have hail on the order of golf ball size tomorrow. That's what I'm projecting. You may see some reports bigger or smaller, but I could see some golf ball size hail tomorrow. Again, that's going to be your secondary threat. Primary is going to be damaging winds. And the reason for the damaging winds, we've got a jet stream again above us that's going to be howling, likely on the order of over 120 miles per hour at times, okay? And that happens often, okay? It doesn't need to be scary, but we're going to have, let's just say 100, 120 mile per hour winds up at jet stream level. And if some of these storms do get developed enough, which I'm expecting them to do, remember that cloud goes up into the sky. You have updrafts and downdrafts within that big thunderstorm cloud. And some of those downdrafts can bring that jet stream level wind down to the ground, not always at 100, 120, but, it can subside a little bit as it comes down. But you can get those real strong winds and storms from that jet support that's up above us. So I could see wind gusts in some of these storms tomorrow, 60, 70. I don't see too much higher than that. This isn't the setup that we had last week, but again, could get damaging winds. So damaging winds primary, hail's going to be secondary, tornado's going to be tertiary, I believe the word is. Haven't ever used that. Diane, you're welcome. I appreciate that. That's what I try to do, is give you detailed stuff that you need. And again, we don't hype it up. I don't have fireworks and monster trucks at the beginning of our broadcast. I have tulips and spring flowers for your enjoyment. It's really all I could find for spring. But anyway, I just want you to know, like, this is honest meteorology talk. And again, I'm a meteorologist. I'm not a basement meteorologist. I'm an actual meteorologist. Have 2 Emmy Awards, and I don't know what else to talk about because I don't care about awards. But anyway, I just want you to know your information is at least credible. Doesn't mean I'm right, okay, but at least it's coming from someone who's not just looking at models and regurgitating that to you. I look at the models and I come up with my own forecast based on that, because a lot of times the models are off in something, okay? But I appreciate you joining for sure. So Jacob, chances for another tornado tomorrow, I'll tell you right here. National Weather Service has it out. Jacob, your picture is frightening. I don't even want to pull it up on the page. I hope that was Halloween and not like last week. But in terms of tornado chance, there you go. 2% chance of a tornado. I believe that's when 25 miles of a point. So I would agree with that from National Weather Service or Storm Prediction Center. The problem with tomorrow is we're either going to have several or we're not going to have any. All right. And again, the not any is not a problem, but the problem is we could have several tornadoes at once with the setup, because I see multiple supercells, at least in this pattern, the way it looks right now, to develop at once. But let's, again, just because we're talking about this for a long time and because I'm answering questions about the severe weather doesn't mean it's going to be a blockbuster event tomorrow, okay? Hopefully we get out of tomorrow and we say, that's it. There were just a couple thunderstorms. This wasn't a big deal. Hopefully that's how we leave tomorrow, okay? I don't want you to interpret this, that we're talking about it and getting you prepared for it, as that was an overblown hype forecast, all right? We are not hyping it. This is not Armageddon tomorrow, okay? This is a springtime severe weather threat for the region, and we can handle it. We just need to make sure we're prepared for it, okay? Just make sure you're in tune with the weather. You have a way to get watches and warnings, all right? And that you have a way to get some coverage if there are tornado warnings or severe thunderstorm warnings. And we certainly provide that. We will provide live coverage as needed tomorrow, anytime these storms pop, okay? And we'll talk about it. We'll get you through it, kind of like we did at 3 o'clock in the morning last Friday. Still catching up on sleep for that. Kathy, would love to see your Emmy Awards. They're nothing fancy. Oh, you work at a haunted house, Jacob. So this is our Emmy Award. Again, I am not an awards person. I didn't ask for these. I don't even remember signing up, but this is for tornado coverage that we did at my current station, and this is another one for tornado coverage year before. And then I just didn't submit the last 2 years. The thing about awards, they're great, and what I like about these, and I am honored with these, is because colleagues vote on them. It's not the public or anything like that, but colleagues vote on them. So it's other meteorologists that are recognizing your coverage, which I'm humbled by that. I actually voted a couple sessions ago for the Chicago meteorologist, so I got to vote, like watch Tom Skilling stuff and vote, which was super cool. We get to all kind of grade each other's work. But in terms of awards, and we don't need to get into this, especially not now, but I'm going to real quick. In terms of awards, if you don't submit your entry and pay a bunch of money to get your video submitted, and a lot of times you do it as a team, but if you don't do that, then you don't win. And so there's a lot of people that go unrecognized because they don't want to pay $200 to $300 just to submit something. And that goes for all awards. That goes for a lot of TV stations subscribe to this weather rate thing where it says rated #1 by you in the viewing area. And it's like, well, you're the only one that submitted for that. So of course you gave money to a company and they rate you this, and then no one else submitted it. So just because someone or a station has more Emmy Awards than any other station doesn't mean that they're the better station. It just means that they submitted more times and they paid more money to get more awards. There's great work behind that, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of false advertising with it as well. So I just want to make that very clear. All right. Maxwell, yeah, with the dry air coming in behind us, there's certainly a chance for that. All right, Allie says, in the off chance we do get tornadoes, when would be a good time to get in our safe place? I live in a trailer. I'll need to travel to that location to hang out. Yeah, Allie, that's totally fine. Yeah, trailers are not the place to be during tornadoes, just FYI. And I know you know that. I'm just telling everyone, just not the place to be. If it takes you a while to get to your safe place, I would say anytime late afternoon, Allie, if you don't mind going there just to hang out, if it's not something uncomfortable, or, maybe something you do anyway, then go ahead and just do that. Late afternoon, again, right around that evening rush hour, okay? And then it may last a little longer if these storms take longer to get in, may be out of here quicker. It's just going to be really one round that we're watching. And hopefully that round's not severe, okay? But if, planning ahead, and I love that you're thinking ahead. I just love that. Yeah, I would get there, hang out early, or I mean late afternoon. We're talking like 3, 4 o'clock, okay? And keep an eye on the radar too. Make sure you have a radar app handy. You'll be able to see these things blowing up out towards the west. And again, we're going to have coverage as needed, okay? Kathy, yeah, there may be a shelf cloud with this. I don't think it'd be, the chances of a shelf cloud are lower with this one than the last one, just because we're not expecting kind of a line to move in. I'm expecting more individual cells to move in from the southwest. So, and by the way, storm motion, I always like to tell you about that. These storms are going to be coming in from the southwest, moving to the northeast, okay? So you're going to want to look to your southwest sky. And they're going to be moving pretty quickly too, not quite as fast as last week's, but I think on the order of 40 to 50 miles per hour movement. So that's pretty quick for storms. But again, southwest sky is where you're going to want to look for these storms tomorrow, and they'll be moving off towards the northeast, okay? So again, anytime tomorrow later in the afternoon into that evening rush hour time frame, okay, is what we're looking at, and we'll have updates, okay? All right. Kathy asked a good question. Kathy, you got a lot of good questions here tonight. I keep picking you too, which is fine. Thinking power outage as well because of wind. Yeah, I mean, our trees, we don't have leaves yet, obviously, so that wind can go through them, thank goodness. If we had leaves on the trees, obviously there's a lot more friction. You have a risk of higher breakage for branches, stuff like that. Our trees have been through it the last couple storms. We've had some good wind events around here. So wind tends to prune the trees, right? It prunes off the weak stuff. And I think we've done that last couple of weeks, especially with a strong south wind. So I don't expect a ton of power outages just from the wind alone. But as you know, we have power outages when the wind is strong, and we're going to have gusts 30 to 40, maybe 45 at times tomorrow night when the colder air is coming in. And that's a gusty wind. So all it takes is one branch on a power line, and there you go. But I don't expect widespread. If we haven't had wind in a long time, then I would up my level in terms of power outage risk. So there's that. Mike, go ahead, ask your question again. That's okay. I see that you said it got buried. So there's that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, ask your question again. I'll answer yours, Mike, and then I got to get to bed here tonight, all right, because we've got a long day tomorrow, and I've got an early morning of TV time. Adrian says if storms slow down, could that change severe risk? Yeah, so Adrian, I mean, that's really what we're tracking. If these storms develop, they're not going to slow down because there's a good punch of jet stream energy like directly on us, so it's going to keep the storms moving. But it's all about where they develop. If they develop close to us in central Illinois, then we would have a good risk for severe weather because they would be fresh storms that are still maturing and they'd be at their peak close to us, okay? If these storms fire up back towards western Illinois, Missouri, and they have to travel farther, they're going to be weakening as they move in. Doesn't mean they won't be strong. But again, it depends on where they initiate. That's the big thing I'm watching tomorrow. So there's that. Okay. Linda, you're welcome. Absolutely. Okay. Mike says, just asking for a brief recap because I've only been here for a couple minutes. Oh, no problem. How bad is it going to be for Valpo? Okay. So Mike, let me tell you that. So, and again, this will be my last question for Mike here. So recap for everybody. Powerful area of low pressure comes in tomorrow. We have to watch a warm frontal boundary during the midday hours. We may pop a storm along that. I'm not banking on it, but we may have a storm or two earlier in the day. All right. We'll have to watch that because there's going to be a warm front that tends to do weird things to the wind. So I'll have my antennas up as we go into the midday and early afternoon hours. We should catch a brief break, and then more storms will develop as that low pressure swings in. And you can see it here on the modeling. It's not guaranteed, but right in here is right before that evening rush, okay? This is into that evening rush hour right here. And if these storms develop in areas of central Illinois, we'll have some real nice looking supercells coming into the region, okay? That spells severe weather, all right? Hail, damaging winds, primary, can't rule out a tornado with that. If they develop, as the NamNest says, way back here, okay, instead of central Illinois, if they develop back in Missouri, then they're going to start to kind of rain, I don't want to say rain themselves out, but the supercells will become more linear, and that will lead to more heavy rain, and it'll kind of ruin any severe chance where we may get some gusty winds with it. But you can see the NamNest is not impressed as these move through, okay? So it all depends on where they initiate. in my mind tomorrow. And again, if this stuff clears out, we need that initial round to clear out. So in terms of Valparaiso, your threat is just as high as everyone else. We all stand equal chance tomorrow. In my mind, the further west you get, the higher your risk, but that's not what Storm Prediction Center is saying, and I don't want to get into the details of that. But in terms of the forecast for the severe weather, it's going to be sometime, Mike, right before that evening rush hour, sometime around there through early evening, okay, in there. And again, it depends on when they develop. I will be here tomorrow to track you through all this stuff. So we'll be on it for sure. Okay. Great question. Hope that recap helped. Guys, thanks for taking time out of your evening. I know it's a nice evening. Thanks for taking your time to join me. I do appreciate that. You guys asked awesome questions, as always. We'll be with you tomorrow. We'll have a new forecast tomorrow. We do forecast discussions on the radio side of things. So if you're in the office and you've got the radio on, X-Rock 103.9, Indiana 105.5, and Z107.1. In regionweather.com, we'll have a fresh update tomorrow morning. If you are not subscribed to regionweather.com, go ahead and do so. Just go to regionweather.com. You go to the right-hand side of the screen, and it says sign up for daily email. I know that sounds annoying. I promise it's not. I type it, and I send it once a day in the morning. If there's real bad weather, I might send you another one later in the evening. But you get to wake up in the morning and open your inbox and say, oh, Matt updated the severe weather forecast, and I type up, something for you. It's not automated. There's no bots. I don't even use the AI. Probably should, but I don't. And there'll be a graphic there for you too. So if I do need to get an update to you tomorrow morning, I'll be able to do that through email instead of having to go live or anything like that. Email is still a good thing. All right. I know live is everything, but there's that. Okay. So what we, I appreciate it. Oh, wow. Iron Jim got my vote for best on YouTube. I appreciate that. Our problem is we don't have millions of followers because we don't do the whole country. And I'm okay with that. Let's stick with all of our friends and family in Northwest Indiana and get you guys through it. All right, Corey, you're welcome. Tim, you're welcome. You guys get some sleep. We'll be back again with you tomorrow, okay?